All right, welcome back. So on deck today is going to be another ballistic test. This time we have a little bit of a versus matchup, a classic 9mm versus 40. Oh boy, caliber wars. Yay. But we want to do something a little bit different today. So what we want to look at is we want to look at the bullet technology that was available to the FBI in the late 1980s when they originally conducted these tests, which would lead to the development of the 40 and the subsequent adoption of the 40 cal by most of law enforcement in the country. And now there is a trend to move back to 9mm. The FBI itself, after having been the originator, the reason du jour for the 40 cal's introduction and adoption of it, there's a movement now to go back to 9mm, and the FBI is actually doing that, and a lot of agencies across the country are beginning to do that as well. So what we want to look at is, given the bullet technology of the era in the late 1980s, the standard cup and core hollow points that were available, why did the FBI gravitate towards around like the 40 cal over the 9mm? And then we want to look at what's available today for the 9mm, why they're gravitating back to it. So what we have is a 180 grain jacketed hollow point. This is a Nosler, nothing special, just a regular old cup and core, run-of-the-mill 180 grain hollow point. We also have, for the 9mm, we have the 115 grain. This is the federal BP, 9mm BP, standard 115 grain cup and core hollow point, popular with law enforcement back in the day. And the BPLE, this is the plus P plus version of the BP, and it is actually, as far as I know, I believe it is still in use today. You can see the white boxes you can get this round in, and that is actually a contract overrun for federal agency sales. This round is essentially the same thing as BP, just juiced up a bit more, so we'll see there's that extra velocity. Would the FBI just have been better to juice up the 9mm a little rather than switch caliber, or is this 115 grain cup and core projectile is penetrating the barriers laid out by the FBI in the late 1980s? Was it just too much for this bullet technology to handle? Then we're going to move to the 147 grain HST. HST has been around a little over a decade and has proven itself to be an excellent law enforcement round. So we'll see. This is the new school 9mm, so to say, and we'll see how this stacks up against the old school 40, and is there validity to the return of the 9mm. So that's what we want to see. So something a little bit different. We're going to fire it through the most difficult portion of the FBI protocol, which is laminated safety glass. So the guns we'll be using, this is a California Highway Patrol model 4006 TSW Smith & Wesson, so an old school classic law enforcement 40 caliber, and of course just a run-of-the-mill Glock 19. This one we do have a threaded barrel, but it's a Glock factory barrel, so this will be the equivalent of a Glock 17. That'll be the guns we're going to be using, and I'll go ahead and show you the setup. All right, and here's the setup. We have our windshield angled back at approximately 45 degrees per the FBI protocol. The FBI also specifies to fire at a slight angle, 15-degree offset. Supposed to simulate standing off the front quarter panel, but due to the curvature of this, we're not using a flat piece of glass. We're not. That's going to be a little difficult to achieve, so we're just going to fire straight on. However, there is a portion in the FBI tests where they do fire straight on at the windshield. So for what we're trying to, the purposes we're trying to do, this will work just fine. So behind that we have our 1 gallon water jugs. It's supposed to be 18 inches from the glass. In this case, we're closer to 16, just so I can have enough room. But that's okay. Again, it's all going to be consistent. We're going to shoot the same with each round. These water jugs, we typically see 1.5 times the penetration, 10% ordnance gel. So according to FBI protocol, you're supposed to achieve a minimum of 12 inches penetration after penetrating the barrier. So we're hoping to see our round land somewhere in the 4th jug if possible. This is probably the toughest test of the FBI protocol, and this is really where standard cup and core hollow points don't fare so well. So we're going to see how the lightweight 9mm of the era compared to the heavier 40 cal of the era, and see, hey, was there a good reason for going to the 40? All right, first up will be the 115 grain 9mm BP. All right, let's go check that out. All right, so I've made a little aiming mark towards the top of the jug, because typically you get downward deflection firing from the outside in on a angle windshield like this. But it looks like we hit basically almost almost right where we were aiming. Unfortunately, that put it a little high on the jugs and it didn't pass through the thicker portion, so I think this penetration depth is going to be a wash. But I believe the core is in jug 4. In fact, it went to the back of this and cracked. So I'm going to dig this out of here and we'll just pile this in on the future for more data. But we're going to do this over because these penetration depths are going to be a little bit off. So we'll set this back up and do this over. But I'll go ahead and dig this out and show it to you. All right, and there's what's left of our core. Obviously, the jacket is stripped off. I saw the jacket lying in jug 2. That actually looks a little bit better than I thought it would. So let's go ahead and try this one more time and see if we can't get that round a little bit lower in the jug. I actually thought we'd have more deviation than we did, but so that's a little surprising. But well, let's go ahead and hit this again. All right, we're going to try this again. We're just going to put the round underneath where the other one was. We won't hit a compromised portion, so it'll be fine. All right, let's go check that out. All right, so as you can see, we hit underneath. That area wasn't compromised, so it's going to be valid. Again, I have to say, I'm surprised we're not seeing much deviation. That's actually really interesting. I really expected to see more deviation than that with that lightweight projectile. So we penetrated 1, 2, 3. I see a dent on the back of 3 and a dent on 4, but it does not look like we entered 4. So let's go ahead and get this out of here. Okay, and our core and jacket made it all the way to the back of jug 3, put a good dent on 4. So this would have fell short. We would really want to see penetration into that 4th jug in order to really say this would have gone about 12 inches in ordnance gel. However, I have to say, I'm actually a little bit impressed in that I didn't think this would do this well. I actually thought this was going to do worse. So that's interesting. I probably would have seen about 10, maybe 11 inches in ordnance gel. We would have been really close. However, you do see the jacket stripped off and the core has lost a lot of weight. So we will get some weights on all these when we're done. But let's go ahead and try the BPLE and see if that extra velocity doesn't get us a little further. All right, this will be the plus P+. Let's see if we can get into that 4th jug. All right, let's go check it out. All right, so you see some jacket fragments in the 1st jug. Penetration through our 2nd, 3rd, and it looks like, yep, the core is in the 3rd jug. So dent on the 4th, so really no real difference in performance, which honestly is probably not unheard of, really, because if you look at it again, you have about the same amount of mass. It really does lose quite a bit of mass. So, you know, I guess the 150 feet per second just isn't enough to get it all the way through. Nonetheless, I am surprised that this did as well as it did. I honestly thought there was going to be less core left and shallower penetration. So, but again, we did not make it in the 4. So we're probably stuck around the 10 inches of penetration range if this was ordnance gel. So let's go ahead and give the 40 a whirl and see how it stacks up. All right, let's see how the 40 stacks up. All right, let's go check that out. All right. Again, I'm actually surprised. There's not as much deflection as I kind of thought there would be. But hey, all right, jug 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's see what's in jug 4. It looks like the jacket's lying out here on the table. It cut jug there, but I don't see the core, so apparently the core must have came out of jug 4. I'll look around to see if I can find it. It probably just bounced off of one of the other jugs. Let me look around and see if I can find it. Okay, I didn't realize jug 5 had fell on the ground and the core is in it. So, yeah, definitely more penetration. Let me go ahead and dig this out of here. All right, and there we go. Significantly more mass. and certainly more penetration. That would have reached the desired depth. In fact, that might have got more closer to maybe 14, 15 inches of penetration. So yeah, definitely an improvement in terms of penetration and overall mass that penetrated through. So while the 9mm 115 was not as ineffective as I thought it was going to be, there certainly is noticeably more effect with the 40 caliber 180 grain in this particular setup. All right, let's go ahead and hit this with the 147 grain HST and see how that stacks up to the 1980s era, or well, this would technically be 90s, but 10mm light / 40 cal. All right, guys, here we go. 147 grain HST. This will be the new school 9mm. All right, let's go check it out. All right, and we had a fairly nice center hit. So again, not much deviation. That's pretty nice to see. I don't see any fragments in this first jug either. Second jug, straight line penetration through the third jug. Again, I don't see much fragments, so that's a sign right there. And yep, there's our bullet in the back, or in jug 4, and there's a crack on the back of jug 4. So basically textbook penetration. That would have put you right at about somewhere between 12 and 14 inches, more than likely. So that's exactly what the protocol looks for. So let's go ahead and dig it out. All right, and if that isn't a tell of bullet tech right there, I don't know what is. Jacket is still intact. In fact, most of the bullet looks intact. So yeah, not much to complain about there. Let's go ahead and get some weights and wrap this up. All right, we'll go ahead and weigh these up. Starting with our BP, we're looking at approximately roughly 90 grains. Our second BP, again, roughly 90 grains. Will be, it's plus or minus maybe 2 because there's a little breeze blowing and whatnot, and it's kind of moving the scale a little, so we'll just approximate here. And again, roughly 90 grains for the BPLE. So no real difference in the ending mass of these projectiles, regardless of the velocity that they struck with, which is why they gave almost identical performance. Better performance than I expected, but nonetheless, it came up short. Remember, we wanted to get into jug 4, preferably to the back of jug 4, to make sure we exceeded that 12-inch minimum. We came up a little short. We're probably more in the 10-inch range. But that is actually better performance than I would have expected. I was actually only expecting maybe not even getting into jug 3. So, yeah, the results are what they are. Now for the 40 cal, we're looking at about 145-ish. Yeah, 145 or so grains. We did see penetration into the 5th jug, so we easily exceeded the minimum standard. This was probably closer to 16 inches, actually, which is nice. You can obviously see why, given the bullet tech of the era, the FBI did gravitate towards the 40, since penetration was their primary concern after the debacle in Miami. That was the top priority of their duty ammunition. After that was to get to that depth in ordnance gel to ensure that you could get through to the vitals from any angle and barrier on a human aggressor. So the 40 cal of that era certainly did achieve that, whereas the 9mm, due to the bullet construction of that era, just didn't have the mass and was struggling. Not to say it's ineffective. As I said, this actually was more effective than I thought it was going to be. But I could see why, yep, the FBI, given the protocols they laid out, why they would gravitate towards the 40. Now our 147 grain HST, and we're looking at about 145 grains. So we only lost about 2 grains of mass, and it's the same weight as our 40 cal. So we started off with 180 grain projectile in our 40, and we ended up with the same bullet weight as our 9mm, since our 9mm's bullet construction is of a superior design. It is what it is. Now, the 9mm penetrated to the back of jug 4, which means we would have exceeded that 12-inch minimum. So, again, we met the specification, only did it with a lighter bullet. So, I'll give you some final thoughts here. All right, so some final thoughts on all this. I'm sure I won't hear the end of it in the comments. All right, so here's the deal, guys. Given the bullet technology of the 1980s, when the FBI conducted its wound seminar and set its parameters for what it wanted its duty ammunition to do, yes, there was an advantage to a 40 caliber projectile. The extra mass compensated for the poor bullet design of the era and allowed it to retain enough mass after penetrating barriers that it was able to achieve the penetration depths that the FBI really, that was their biggest concern, was getting that minimum penetration depth. And the 40 cal was able to do that where the 9mm was struggling. Fast forward to modern times, modern bullet technology allows us now to achieve the same performance as the 40 cal without the added recoil and all the other things that come into choosing a 40 caliber weapon. Better longevity, service life of your weapons, lower cost of ammunition, easier to shoot. Same ballistic you wouldn't be able to tell the difference which one of these passed through the body. Both of these would have done the job, and you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. So that is the big question, and that is why the FBI is moving back towards 9mm, and many agencies are beginning to follow. It's not that they're reversing their decision from the 1980s, it's they're acknowledging that the bullet technology of the era now allows the 9mm to meet the specifications that previously only the 40 cal was. Yeah, I know, 45. Guys, look, caliber wars into the... All right, guys, if you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it, and you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe, share the video. It helps the channel out. As always, go ahead and comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about all this. I really appreciate your comments, guys, but as always, please keep your comments professional, and I'll see you guys next time.